There is nothing that I love more than watching something that has a female lead and realizing that, oh my gosh, the director and the writers know women. A common occurrence that happens within like film and media is that with women leading female characters, particularly if something is being directed or written by a man, I will always come away from watching whatever that is feeling that, oh, these people like have never met a woman before. It always feels like the male director or writer is projecting what he thinks a woman should be rather than what a woman is. But I think that with this director who we're going to be talking about today, in his recent works at least, he deviates from that stereotype that I usually experience. And his name is Sanjay Leela Bhansali. I first encountered Bhansali's work, like with most international people, after watching Heeramandi last year. And when I watched it, I knew for a fact that he would be one of my favorite directors and writers. The way he structures a narrative, but also the way he wrote his female characters, it was with such care, such awareness, and the way he directs also, my favorite kind of directing. It's a very classical, almost purist approach, which, you know, I know could be a bit annoying sometimes. I like it for the most part. So when I saw Hiramandi, I had to do a deep dive on his other works because I can't like a director or a writer normally. I have to know their psyche. I need to know why they make the things that they make and what exactly they're trying to communicate. And honestly, if you're here and you're watching me right now, then you're most likely the same. In this video, I really want to focus on how he portrays women in media. I think that Bhansali does this amazing thing where he puts women in situations that are taboo. In our society, when you see a woman in that specific situation that's labeled taboo, your first inclination would be to judge her. But what Bhansali does is that not punishing his characters, not villainizing these women, but also showing the nuance of the situation that they're in, that yes, this may be bad, but these women aren't necessarily evil. Situations, you know, whether that be the other woman or the lady of the night. That's so unfortunate that I can't use the proper word for it because of how YouTube is, but you know what I mean. A lady of the night. The other woman. In most iterations of the stereotype, the story usually aligns with the Madonna horror complex. You know, you always have the innocent doting wife and the seductress evil mistress. You know, that's usually, it's always a dichotomy. It's always opposite ends. It's very black and white. Like, this woman is a good woman, this woman is a bad. And I'm not saying that being an other woman, being a mistress is good. That's not good. We do not condone that over here. But I do want to say that, like, in media, the story is always written in a way where you're supposed to dislike the woman more than you are the man. You know what I mean? There's always like a subliminal messaging to the viewer that the other woman should be more disliked. They always make her a super annoying, and she's the one we're supposed to hate more than the guy who's doing the cheating. And in those movies or series or whatever, what usually happens is that innocent wife, the one being cheated on, at the end of the movie, she's rewarded, and the other woman she's always punished. And usually the punishment is she ends up with the man that sucks, and that is your punishment. But what Sanjay does is something... Sanjay, like, we're on a first name basis. What Bhansali does is different, I think. In Bajirao Mastani, Mastani is presented as a warrior princess who falls in love with Bajirao, and only to later find out that he's married once she goes to see him in his home country. But Mastani is not fazed by this at all, and she continues to pursue Bajirao even though now she knows that he's married. Which, you know, we can argue about the morality of that and all of that, but I'm not really interested in that right now because the obvious is that that's crazy. But the way Bhansali paints Mastani is that we as the audience empathize with her because she goes through so much embarrassment, she goes through so much torment and all this stuff, you know, Bajirao's mother. All that scrutiny, she goes through it, and her entire goal is to be with this man. Now... do I condone such nonsense of leaving behind your home and going through hell and back for a man? No, he's just a man. But the way that Mastani acts is so in line with her character because in the first scene where we're introduced to her, when that guard gives the message to the other person on the side who's Mastani that Bajirao does not want to see her, she bursts into his quarters and kills a bunch of his guards. That, it shows that when she wants something, she will do whatever it takes to get it. And that is super in line with how she acts throughout the film, I think. And another thing is that during this whole thing that's happening, Mastani never once is presented as being evil or cruel to Bajirao's first wife, Kashi. And Kashi also never tries to fight with Mastani. This situation isn't romanticized, at least in my opinion, when I'm watching it. It's not romanticized at all because you see the pain that Kashi goes through of literally watching her husband basically have an affair right in front of her and she can't really do anything about it. It's very sad to see her because Kashi, her character is still in line with that stereotype of she's very doting and she is in denial of what's happening. She's in an impossible situation. This will be a common theme of women who are kind of fighting each other, but they're always brought together by their womanhood or things that connect them as women. Even then, there is a part where Kashi finally confronts Mastani about what she's done. She does it, and it's also a moment where she's showing her, where she's also extending an olive branch to Mastani, which is beautiful. And Kashi also regains her power after being in denial for so long, finally confronts Bajirao about what he's done. During all of this, you know who's punished at the very end of the story? You know who gets the punishment? Bajirao. Because he deserves it. He loses both Mastani and Kashi. It's insane to me that this guy went to another country where he's supposed to be doing war and instead he's out here flirting with other women. And then he just basically starts a brand new family right in front of his wife and never discusses it with her. It's insane. That's crazy to me, dude. Could you not even speak to your wife about this? If you want to have a second wife. I've heard Bhansali defending this character, Bajirao, by being he just has so much love in him. Man, I don't give a damn. I don't care about how much capacity you have to love. Speak to your wife. If you have so much love in you that you have to give it to another woman, talk to her first. Be this is what I want to do. I'm thinking of doing this with a marriage. I'm thinking of taking another wife. Don't just rock up and be yeah, I'm married now. What are you going to do about it? He doesn't even say anything. He doesn't say anything. It has to be Kashi who finally is what you're doing is wrong, which is crazy because he knows it's wrong. Let's move on. Ladies of the night. The sex industry is the most polarizing topic you could ever bring up. Due to its polarity and how strong people feel about it, there's usually no room for nuance in these conversations about it. It's usually people are either one way or the other. Again, this sort of dichotomy thing that happens all the time. It's either you're on this side or you're on this side. And it's always these two extremes. I would like to have a conversation where both of these things could exist. I think that Bhansali does a really good job of showing the nuance of the situation. He shows the harsh reality of what sex work is. He shows abuse and torment and torture these women are subject to and how they find themselves in such situations. But he shows these women being empowered. Not that what's happening to them is empowering, but how they extrapolate strength from the situation. Let's talk about Gangubai. She's sold into sex work and is just immediately ripped away from her family and the rest of society. She has no choice. She has no say, no power at all in her situation. She's subject to violence from the men, her clients, together with the other women that she's with. And yet she finds strength and she uses her situation to then turn around and help other people, to help children, to help orphans and sex workers in Mumbai. And this is a story of an actual woman. It's so important to be reiterating these stories in different ways, to make movies about these women and really amplify their voices, amplify their stories. Again, make people sort of question maybe beliefs that they've had before. It's crazy how much we just forget, especially as women, that the other women that we kind of look down upon are kind of facing the same things that we are, but just 10 times worse. There's so much loneliness in this film. Even though these women find community within each other, there's still a sort of loneliness that me and you could never understand. Being shunned by the rest of society, your family, feeling that you could never find romantic love every single day. You're having your humanity chipped away each and every single night by different people. You're so dehumanized to the point where you have dehumanized yourself. That loneliness is so deep, to not only be lonely because you have no one, but to be lonely because you also don't even have yourself. There's a scene Bhansali talks about where Kamli is about to die after giving birth, and Gangu comes into the room and they're laying, oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. They're laying on the bed together and they're looking at each other, and Bhansali says, it's two people looking at each other and they're both dying. Oh my gosh. And also there's another beautiful shot. Beautiful, and it's so eerie. After Kamli dies, of all the women around her getting her corpse ready, and it switches between her and Gangu holding Kamli's newborn baby, and it's like this parallel of life and death, and it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Speaking of hauntingly beautiful shots, let's talk about Heeramandi. I haven't watched all of Bhansali's discography, but this is my opinion. I feel like the women of Heeramandi are an acclamation of all the other women that Bhansali has written about in the past, but they're like better versions. I hate to say this. I hate using this word. I think this may be his magnum opus. The reason why I hate using that word, because it makes it seem like this is your cap as an artist and you can't go higher than this. I don't think he can't go higher than this. It's so good, and I can't wait to see what he does next. There is this common theme also in a lot of Bhansali's works of preserving Indian culture. With Heeramandi, there is a focus on preserving Indian culture, and there's like two fights happening. There's a fight of the women's rights, obviously, and then there's the fight of the resistance against the British. Though visually, courtesan lifestyle is presented as like super glamorous, there's still the exploration of loneliness. And obviously the downsides of being a courtesan. It's not all fun and games. It's not all glitz and glamour. So many of the women crave freedom, but like they cannot leave. In the first episode, Bibojan says we're living in a golden cage because they're surrounded by so much richness, so much gold and diamonds, but they're prisoners. They're still prisoners and they can't necessarily leave. I mean, Aurangzeb, her whole storyline is how she could not escape her fate of being a courtesan, which is the exact same fate that her mother faced. Something I find so interesting though about Heeramandi is, apart from how well written they are, you know, Malika Jan being the way she is because of how she grew up, her environment that like kind of pressurized her to be how she is, or the antagonist, quote unquote, her being the way she is because of Malika Jan. All these women sort of like having reasons for their seeming evilness. Despite, you know, the feuds, the anger, the resentments, the want for vengeance, the rue, the shame, all of that, Aurangzeb ties all these women together. Even though I may not like her character, I think I'll get into that a little bit later of why I don't. Alam represents innocence, and I think she's a mirror to the women of Heeramandi into like their past. She mirrors to each and every one of those women who they once were. But I also think that she's a glimpse of hope of if she could get out of here, there's some part of me that could get out of here. Do you know what I mean? Even though Malika Jan, she seems really strict and rigid with her daughter, and even though she keeps on being like, you're gonna be a courtesan, you can't escape this, she does admit at some point that she had hope that Alam would leave and she would actually go out and do what she wanted to do, which is become a poet. In these little ways, they're all trying to help her or like push her out and trying to help her leave. They see their younger selves and they want her to leave because it would be healing for them. They're willing to put aside their feud for her. There is a scene. I don't think that a month passes in my life ever since I've watched Heeramandi last year where I don't think about that scene of Malika Jan in the fountain trying to cleanse herself after she was violated by the British officers. And she did that. She put her body on the line in order to save her daughter. All the women, the ones who hate Malika Jan, when they find out that she has been R-worded, they immediately put it all aside, whatever that they were going through. What brings them all together is their womanhood. That's usually what happens with women in general. We know, and as a woman, when you're watching that, even if you haven't gone through that, you understand. No matter if you hate a woman, no matter what, if you guys are on different sides of the political spectrum, that will always bring you together. Because you will always be a woman. To be a woman, to be demeaned, to be dehumanized, not taken seriously, to have your very essence as a human being snatched away from you without your consent, and for you to still have your head held up high somehow through it all, They know what that's like. The women of Bhansali's multiverse, Bhansali Swans, if you may, they're super important because we know these women. We know the woman who's a strict, imperfect mother who's been tainted by time but still loves her daughter very deeply, or the woman who had dreams but could never achieve them because of her gender, or the woman from a low-income neighborhood who has a deep voice and boyish mannerisms, who can command a room wherever she walks in, the woman who lives for romance, the woman who doesn't, or the woman who's not admirable because she's so powerful and doesn't want love, but she's powerful yet still pines. We all know these women, and some of us are some of these women. I'm always happy whenever I find media that properly portrays women. I do have some criticisms though. Okay, I tried watching Div Does. Don't come at me. I was an hour in and I just couldn't do it. Personally, I couldn't do it. A lot of his old works, he does not have the nuanced take on women as he does now. When I was watching Padmaavat, there is a disclaimer in the beginning that's like, all animals that have been used in this production, they were not harmed. And when I read that, I was like, oh, they used some animals. That's cute. I wonder what they used. I can't wait to see them. Girl, why did they lie about that? It's so obviously fake. And then there's like another scene that has a tiger. They put like a little disclaimer where it's like, tiger was filmed in America or something. And I'm like, that's not a real tiger. It's not there. The CGI animals looked so fake. They looked so... Also, Bhansali sucks. He is not good with action scenes. I'm not a $1 million director, but I have watched some things and I can tell you right now, I don't like his fight scenes. I think they're very anticlimactic. There's too many cuts in it. They're just not good, in my opinion. This is a common complaint, but sometimes it's just like too much VFX and it kind of makes it look artificial. Like sometimes his shots do look super fake. I don't know, it takes you out of it. Some people also complain that it's too clean. I like the clean look sometimes, but I think Gangubai, he balances out so well this sort of purist technique, but also like a very natural kind of looking Alamzib and Padmaavat. These two characters, I don't like them. First of all, Alamzib, she says she wants to become a poet, but the minute she meets Tajdar, that ambition just went away. She stopped pursuing it in a way. All she was thinking about, all like that was on her mind, was that man. And it almost seemed like this whole thing of her wanting to be a poet was only there just to like bridge her and Tajdar because they had something in common, which is annoying. Padmaavat, same thing. The way her character is introduced, she's hunting. She's in the woods. She's hunting. She seems like this powerful woman. The rest of the movie, she's just in a palace with this new man that she's married, and like her whole thing is just she's always like getting him dressed, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, those are my complaints. That is all I have for today's video. Yeah, that's all. Bye.